Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to Divination Death Witch. I'm Rain, and today we are talking about de-influencing my craft and my tarot practice. It's actually kind of interesting how I came to want to do this podcast episode and why I started thinking about this. You see, not only does YouTube not know what to do with me as a creator, they don't know what to do with me as a consumer either. For years, my suggested page on YouTube has been a hot mess. It's never really reflected me in the things I want to see. But recently, I started trying to curate it and train YouTube to show me the kind of content I want to watch. However, that is not working. And the kind of content that YouTube is pushing towards me in regard to witchcraft and tarot got me thinking about consumerism when it comes to witchcraft and tarot. You see, no matter what I do, YouTube keeps pushing consumeristic, I guess, if that's a word, content towards me when it comes to these topics. My suggested keeps getting filled with deck videos that are either deck reviews or top 10 mass market decks you have to have, 2026's mass market decks, 2026's indie decks, my top 10 decks for love readings, things like that. And there's nothing wrong with these videos, but as I saw that these were being pushed on me, I started realizing some things. When it comes to witchcraft, I'm getting a lot of unboxing videos pushed towards me, or buy these oils, or buy these herb blends. It's a lot of pushing products towards me, trying to get me to buy them, rather than teaching or talking about philosophy or tarot practices or witchcraft practices. It's far less educational and far more, hey, buy this. You need this expensive ritual tool. You need to buy this tarot deck, and then you need this oracle deck, and then you need this other deck to go along with it. And that got me thinking about the fact of, over the last about 2 years now, I have all but stopped purchasing tarot decks. So I actually went back through what I could find, and through Amazon, I did order one deck this year. I ordered one deck in, I believe it was 2024. And 2024 is when we moved to Louisiana. I have not bought a deck in person in Louisiana. And I'm not sure if I bought a deck in person in 2024 before leaving Washington. But that means that since 2024, I've only purchased 2 decks. And I realized that without setting the intention or making a conscious choice, I have been de-influencing my tarot practice over the last 2 years. I've stopped watching content that tries to get me to buy the latest deck or the most popular decks on the market. I've stopped watching deck collection videos that make me feel like I need more decks. I need to have a deck collection that is massive and takes up bookshelves upon bookshelves. Don't get me wrong, I still have a large deck collection. But not only have I stopped watching this kind of content, I've stopped making this kind of content, I've stopped purchasing so many decks, and I've also stopped using so many decks. My reading style has evolved and yet remained the same, if that makes sense. It's a more refined version of the way I read before, and I think that de-influencing has had a big impact on that. I really enjoy the evolution of my practice, and I'm happy that even though this wasn't a conscious choice that I made, and I didn't set the intention to de-influence my tarot practice, it just seemed to happen naturally. And I find that my readings now have a certain je ne sais quoi, if you will, that they didn't before. Now, that's not to say that I don't still use multiple decks or things like that. It's not to say that I never will purchase a deck, because like I said, I was going through my YouTube and I did see a deck review, and that's the deck that I bought this year. But it was very selective and conscious buying that deck. It was a deck that really resonated with me, and I knew that I would really do well with that deck. And my instinct in regard to that has been very accurate. I've been using that deck since I purchased it, and I have gotten amazingly accurate readings with it. I feel super connected to it. It really has added a bit of romanticism, if you will, to my readings. And that's another thing too that's interesting, because one of the things that I have sort of been trying to do to boost my mental health, because we all need to do things to support our mental health, is romanticize my life, right? Because doing laundry and cleaning the floors and all that, like, it's boring, hard labor that we don't want to do. So as much as possible, I try to romanticize my life, but I've noticed that I've been sort of doing that in a way that is not over consuming, right? Because it's so tempting when we say to romanticize our life to go purchase all these things that make everything look pretty. And I have found myself, yes, purchasing some things, but I'm very selective about what I do purchase. I repurpose other things. I craft things. I'll romanticize an activity by having a nice cup of tea with it, or a cup of coffee, or an adult beverage. Or I might romanticize an activity by burning incense or a candle. Sometimes romanticizing our lives is just having a certain attitude about how we are doing an activity. Sometimes it's just about being a vibe, whatever vibe we want the activity to have. And I've been doing the same thing in my craft as well. Anything that's trying to sell me something or get me to think that my craft has to have a certain aesthetic and then I need to purchase things in order to have that aesthetic, I have just naturally been avoiding those things on social media for quite some time now. Other than consumables like herbs and candles that you use up and then you have to repurchase, I haven't been purchasing anything extra for my craft. Even my jar collection is just because I'll get food that comes in glass jars and then I will save those for craft purposes. When it comes to tarot and witchcraft, I've found that by and large, I am skipping, blocking, clicking not interested on things that are trying to influence me, especially influence me with the intent to get me to make purchases. I find myself drawn more to content that gets me to think about tarot or witchcraft in new and exciting ways, or gets me to revisit my current beliefs or ways of doing things, because it's always good to go back and go, you know, I've been doing this or that in my practice for 10 years or more, and does that still work for me? So I tend to watch things that get me to look critically at my own practice, or that get me to look at tarot and witchcraft in ways I hadn't before, to learn new practices or methods, new meanings for cards, new ways of looking at cards. I'm watching content that gets me to expand my practice or refine my practice. I'm not interested in amassing more things. I'm interested in amassing more knowledge, more experience. The issue with this is that I find a lack of creators that are putting out this kind of content. Yes, there are creators that put out this kind of content, but they are not as prevalent as the influencers. And even when I do find creators who are putting out the kind of content I'm looking for under sort of a broad umbrella term, you have to be very careful because how can I put this politely? Not all creators are created equal when it comes to social media and what they put out there. And if you've been in the pagan, witchcraft, tarot, spirituality community for a while, you know that there's a lot of bad information out there. There's a lot of drama out there. If you've been on TikTok recently, you know that somebody's going around saying that cast iron cauldrons are a closed practice. No, they're not. But this is the kind of stuff you need to wade through when you are trying to consume spiritual content. This means that I found myself searching for content more time than I am actually consuming content because I'm looking for authenticity. I'm looking for creators who know their stuff. And we don't necessarily have to agree or do things the same way. I'm open to not seeing something the same way, but I have zero tolerance for bullshit anymore. And maybe that's because, I am the age that I am, because women, as we get older, we have less room or bandwidth to deal with bullshit. But it's been very hard for me to find the content I'm looking for. And as I'm trying to do that, that's when I realized that, for a while now, I have been de-influencing both my witchcraft and my tarot. So I want to know, are any of you finding this to be the case for yourselves as well? Have any of you been de-influencing your witchcraft or your tarot practice? Are any of you thinking about consciously moving towards de-influencing your witchcraft and your tarot practice? And what does that look like for you? Be sure to tell me in the comments below because I'd love to know what your experience is, what you're doing about de-influencing, if you're doing anything about de-influencing your practice. I know this has been a shorter podcast episode, but if you've enjoyed it, please give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel because while content coming out is slow from me, it is still coming out. The channel is still active. So if you subscribe and hit that notification bell, you will get notified whenever I do post a new video. Until I see you again, my lovelies, blessings to you wherever your journey finds you.